Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here with you today to talk a little bit about Nutrilite's 80th anniversary. It's a big year for us. It's a big story. It's an important story for you to know because it's part of your roots, and we want you to know that as you build your business. So most of you know I wrote a book called The Nutrilite Story. It was published 5 or 6 years ago. It talks about the past, the present, and the future of Nutrilite. We've written that story just recently because the present and future have changed so dramatically in just the last 5 years. We're going to do something exciting with a new book. It's going to be released at the time of our anniversary date, and we hope you get a copy because now it's going to be an ebook format, which will give us much greater and easier circulation, and it's going to be broader in scope. We're actually going to have over 100 stories from Founders Council members about their beliefs and thoughts about the power of the Nutrilite brand. Powerful book. You want to put that on your bucket list to make sure you get a copy. What I'm going to do today is give you a little brief synopsis of this book because I think it's so important for you to have a good understanding of our roots and the history itself. So let's go back to the start. We're going to be celebrating our anniversary on September the 17th, 2014, and that's the day 80 years ago, 1934, that my father sold his first unit of Nutrilite. Now actually the story is broader than that and deeper than that. It goes back another 20 years, almost 100 years it goes back, to when my father stepped off the boat in 1915 in China as a curious young man out to see the world and to make the world a better place and to leave his mark. Just 2 years before that, the word vitamin came into our vocabulary. Casimir Funk, a Polish biochemist, coined the word vitamin to mean those factors in foods that were essential for life beyond the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So the word vitamin recently celebrated its 100th anniversary in 2012. So just a few years before my father got off the boat in China and began his study of China. He had gone there as a young man, excited to see the universe. He had a lot of passion and curiosity, and he wanted to see what it was all about. He took an exam for Saucony oil in New York City and passed towards the top of his class, and it enabled him to go to China. And he went there to help establish distribution routes up and down the Yangtze River, and he had the opportunity to travel all over China. He became infatuated with the Chinese people. He learned how to speak Chinese. He wrote beautiful Chinese script. He studied their language, their history, their philosophy. And as he traveled about China, he became concerned with the health of the Chinese people. In those days, the people in the cities were suffering many diseases. In the agricultural areas, the people appeared to be rather healthy. And the scientists of the day were very concerned about the diseases that were plaguing the Chinese people, and they were looking for the cures to these things. They thought there were germs in the environment. This was before viruses or bacteria had been discovered, and they were looking for cures to these germs that would help stop these diseases that they saw in the big cities. Well, my father woke up one morning with an idea, a very simple idea, but his idea was that perhaps it wasn't what was in the environment that was causing these diseases, but something missing in their food supply. And this set him down a whole road. It was to be the driving force for the rest of his life, to try to understand this better. And I remember very early on, he began to recognize the great importance of a plant-based diet, because he observed that the people who lived in the agricultural areas of China were much healthier than the people in the big cities. And he wondered why, and he began to study how their eating habits had changed, that they had moved from the agricultural areas to the big cities. And he began to envision a supplement made from plant materials that you could add back to the diet and make it more like the diet that they had in the rural areas. And he began to do some simple experiments in China, and these experiments convinced himself that he was on the right track. And he told me about some of these studies that he had done working with plant materials, trying to find out what were these things in plants that were so important in human nutrition. And he would extract from plant materials and run through chromatographic columns, and as these columns came down the pike, there were various colors, and he realized that these colors represented different components that were in the plants and fruits and vegetables that were in the rural diet. And he began to realize that, hey, if some way he could make a concentrate of these plant materials and add it back to the deficient diet that he saw in the big cities, he could help prevent chronic disease in China. And that was the thing that drove him for the rest of his life. He developed a very successful business in China, but when the Great Revolution broke out, he decided it was time to pursue his dream more fully. And he returned to the United States in 1927. He was 40 years of age. He had $24 to his name. He'd lost everything in China in the Revolution. And he decided that he was going to pursue this development of a supplement that you could help bring the diet back into balance. And he began to experiment in his laboratory that he built on Balboa Island in Southern California. And he worked 7 years in this laboratory, developing all kinds of supplements made from plant materials. He said he made some of the most interesting compounds and messes that you could imagine. But finally, in 1934, he thought he had a suitable product for the American marketplace. And he launched it. September 17th was the first unit he sold. He actually, before that, he had given it to people in the California area. And they liked my father, but they generally wouldn't use his product. They thought he was rather strange. And he realized one day that if he was going to be successful with this product, he would have to sell it to people and put a value on it. Because he said, if I don't put a value on it, then the people I'm trying to interest in using the product won't put value on it either. So he put a price on it, and he went back out and he began to tell his story again. And he gradually built up a route of customers in the Southern California area. And it supported his research, and he continued to look for ways to sell the product other than his little route of customers. He tried various retail efforts, and all those failed. He found the only way he could really sell his product effectively was to go out and talk to people one-on-one, tell them about his experiences in China, what his theories were on optimal health and good nutrition and good exercise and thinking and all those things. And he gradually built up this route of customers, continuing all along to look for a better way to sell the product, because he thought ultimately you have to figure out a way to get it into retail establishments. Well, all those efforts failed, and one day one of his customers of several years asked if she could sell the product. Her name was Alma Stewart. He first told her no. If she was in her 60s, he told her that if he couldn't sell the product, he couldn't see any way she was going to be able to do it. But he finally relented and let her sell it. He sold it to her at a 35% discount, because that was the amount of time he was spending talking to people in the local California area. He was known then in those days as the Vitaman, and he used to give lectures around town. And at any rate, that was his first gal, and she went out, and it turned out something very interesting happened. She became a much better salesperson than my father, because she was a satisfied customer. It had changed her life, and she sold the product extraordinarily well. And my father recognized that perhaps this was the best way to sell the product. And out of that then came, he thought it might be just, he had a little route of customers, now he had a route of distributors, and he thought it was going to be a typical direct selling company. And he studied it very carefully, and the business began to grow. He had troubles, he was spending a lot of his time teaching people how to sell the product properly. And he teamed up with a couple of gentlemen who said, well, somehow we got to let these people who are selling and the product go out and distribute it and find other people like you're doing. And he developed a simple bonus structure, and that turned out to be the beginning of what today we often refer to as multi-level selling. And the business really began to soar. And it was a very exciting period of Nutrilite's history. Two of my father's top distributors were a couple of young fellows in Michigan named Jay Van Andel and Rich DeVos, who developed a very successful business for Nutrilite. And the business was a very exciting time for Nutrilite. And the business grew very rapidly. And then we began to have problems with our regulators in the United States, who were concerned about the need for supplementation. They said there wasn't one, that the American diet was perfect, If you ate 3 squares of protein, fats, and carbohydrates, you didn't need to use a supplement like Nutrilite. They wanted to put us out of business. And it was a very, very difficult time, and that's a story that's told in depth in the book. At any rate, there was a period of time when it looked like the company might die. And it was during this period that Jay and Rich said, hey, this method of distribution is a very powerful one. Perhaps we should find some other products to sell and support our distributor base. And they started Amway. And Amway began to grow and expand, and our business continued to kind of hang in there. It was a very difficult period, but we survived because of our satisfied customers who had been using the products for many, many years. And then another very interesting thing happened was we acquired the distribution base, the people who were helping us sell my father's products. And that was in 1963. And in 1969, the White House Conference on Nutrition took place. And for the first time, the American public were told that the American diet wasn't good as they thought it was. And as a matter of fact, was at the cause of many chronic diseases that were spreading around the United States. And our business began to soar again. I joined the company a little before that, and we began to get back to basics, selling our products and going out and talking to people about what our products could do. And the business began to grow again. And things looked very good. And around that period of time, Amway had grown to be about 10 times bigger than we, and they wanted to have a line of supplement products. And they approached us to see if we wanted to join with them and take Nutrilite not only around the United States, but around the world. And after lots of soul searching, we decided that their plan was it was better than ours. And in 1972, we sold out the business to Amway. And in 1973, all Nutrilite distributors became Amway distributors, and all Amway distributors suddenly had a line of Nutrilite, and off the business soared. So after that, the rest is almost history, because we went from being just a few percent of the Amway business to today we represent more than 50% of Amway's volume worldwide. And the whole world is awakening to the concepts that my father talked about so many, many years ago. And the business is flourishing and growing at a very rapid pace today. And you all know that, and I thank all of you in this room who are hearing me today for your efforts in this particular market, for your role in setting the example for what the business is all about, for what the products are all about, and the future has never been brighter for Nutrilite. As a result of that, we are growing at a very rapid pace. Last year, we did over $5 billion worth of Nutrilite, which is a big accomplishment, but it's really just the beginning. My father said way back and told me when I was a small boy that basically every person on the planet was a potential customer for Nutrilite. And he said we just have to keep pursuing it. People will understand more about what we're all about as they move on. Meanwhile, we have to put in more research. We've got to understand better these plant materials that we're making. He called them associated food factors. That kind of changed to phytochemicals, and then finally the terminology that's used today is phytonutrients, and it's become a huge part of the fields of nutrition at academic universities all over the world. So the interest in phytonutrients and their role in human nutrition is expanding at a very rapid pace. We're putting enormous resources into all areas of the business today. We're expanding rapidly, as I think many of you know, building new facilities, adding new farms. We've got farms now located in many locations in the world. We have a NutriCert program where we're establishing farms around the world, and people are joining us if they agree to follow our farming practices. And this is really helping us to move rapidly and expanding our supplement line around the world. We're expanding our operations in the United States. We have new facilities that have gone up, and we've doubled the size of Weta Park. We're building new facilities in Ada, built a new protein plant. We're in the process of building a new 800,000 square foot manufacturing site in Ada. We're building new factories in China, in Vietnam, India, and the business is just exploding. So enormous resources are being put in place to be prepared for this growth that's coming very rapidly our way. So this is the time to really get after the business, Now, as I said, we're investing enormous sums in research and development. And one of the areas we are focusing on is what my father focused on almost 100 years ago. And those were those funny things that he saw, those colors in plants and fruits that he thought were so important. He called them associated food factors. Now we call them phytonutrients. And now we know how important they are in human nutrition, controlling genetic machinery, involved in all the different nutritional aspects of one's nutrition. Extraordinarily important, and it's very important to get them in a balanced format. And so we talk about colors in one's diet, and the importance to get all the different colors. And I think most of you know in a product like XX, we have 26 different plant concentrates in there. Each one has a slightly different color. Each one has a slightly different structure. Each one has an entirely different function in the human body, but they all work together. And that's the thing that he learned so long ago in China in his study of Chinese medicine, when they believed in the holistic approach to health. And he was intrigued with that, and he always recognized the importance that it wasn't just one individual nutrient, one individual phytonutrient that was important. It was the perfect balance of them all together. That's why a product like XX is such an important product. Can you imagine? That's been in existence for 80 years. The first product he launched was a forerunner of XX. And today we continue to have XX in the line, and we continue to make it better and better as we learn and we discover more and more new plant materials. That's why we have farms around the world. That's why we have a botanical research center in China, so we can be studying these and making our products better and better and better. And our goal, of course, is to provide optimal nutrition and help people get to optimal health. If they incorporate these nutritional products and exercise and proper thinking, we can help people achieve what my father was trying to achieve so many years ago, enabling people to live long, active, vigorous lives, and the period of old age would be very short, and enable them to achieve their human potential, whatever it might be, whether it be a great athlete, a great musician, or a great entrepreneur. You name it, that's what he was after. And now this whole field is becoming extraordinarily important, and the world now is beginning to turn in our direction of the importance of prevention of disease, of embracing optimal health. And when people do that, we have a chance to cut healthcare costs, which are bankrupting most countries, and that's why there's so much interest today in what we're doing. Our children's program is an enormous program in little bits, which we think is just fabulous. Every country has been given the challenge to develop a program that benefits children, because we know our future depends on children. And now what science has shown in terms of the nutritional arena is that if you can give children good nutrition through their first 5 years of life, they have an opportunity to develop into a productive, really a productive, brilliant human being. Conversely, if they don't have good nutrition through that first 5 years, they're going to be battling with that handicap for the rest of their lives. So we're really focusing on children these days, and with our Little Bits program and our nutrition kitchens all over China, our other programs that almost every country has some program that impacts the optimal health of children in their own communities. And that's what it's all about. And that's what people get excited about, why they want to join us, why they want to get involved in this, and to help people teach. Just for example, our agricultural research is kind of leading the way in sustainable farming. We know if we're going to take care of the planet, we've got to take care of our soil and the plants that we grow on it. So we're leading the way in organic farming and permaculture and biodynamics, and it's so exciting. People want to come and understand this and begin to teach other people how to do a better job and make it a win-win for countries all over the world. So yeah, lots of exciting things to be done, and it's fun to be a part of all this because, as I said earlier, we're dealing with the greatest assets that people have if they just stop and think about it, and that's their health and their wealth. And if you got both those things involved in your business opportunity and in the products that you're working on, it becomes a very extraordinarily exciting, business to be in, a life to be in, because you have an opportunity to really leave the world a better place. So the key thing that I would leave you all with as we move into this very exciting future is now's the time to really think about where you want to take this business. How important is this to you? We know we're dealing with the greatest assets that people have. We want to help people to achieve optimal health. And in order to do that, depends upon you folks, because you're the key to our future growth. We're doing everything we can in terms of having the best people making the products, and now we need you to really carry that message by being products of the product and carrying this message to people all over the world. If we do that, there's no stopping us, and there's no doubt in my mind that we could maybe get very close to my father's original objective, was making sure every person on the planet had an opportunity to choose and embrace our products, to choose and embrace our messages of optimal health, and the other things to help our economy and our environment to be a better place. So have a great year, and do put on your list to come visit us, meet our scientists, come visit me, come visit our farms to see what it's all about, so sir, you're imbued with everything that we're doing, that you can take this message on to the people of the world. Good luck. We'll all be cheering you on, and I thank you again for the enormous and wonderful job you're doing around the world. Goodbye. See you soon again.